The Lord spoke to Moses and instructed him to record the stages of Israel's journey, each place where they traveled and camped, step by step, according to the Lord's command. Moses carefully wrote down their departures and stopping places as the Lord directed him. This chapter is not a summary. It is a memorial, a record of where God led his people from the moment they left Egypt until they stood at the edge of the Promised Land. From Egypt to the wilderness. The Israelites set out from Rameses on the 15th day of the first month, the day after Passover. They left boldly in full view of the Egyptians, while the Lord executed judgment on the gods of Egypt. They camped at Succoth, then moved on to Etham on the edge of the wilderness. From Etham they turned back to Pi-Hahiroth near Migdol, facing the sea, and camped near Baal-Zephon. From there, they passed through the sea into the wilderness and traveled 3 days before camping at Marah. They left Marah and came to Elim, where there were 12 springs of water and 70 palm trees. They camped by the Red Sea, then moved into the desert of Sin, traveling from place to place as the Lord led them. Through the wilderness, they set out from the desert of Sin and camped at Dophkah, then Alush, and then at Rephidim, where there was no water for the people to drink. From Rephidim they came to the wilderness of Sinai and camped near the mountain, where the Lord spoke to Moses and gave his law. They moved on from Mount Sinai and camped at Kibroth Hattava, then Hazeroth, and then Rithmah. From there the journey continued through many stations: Rimmon Perez, Libnah, Rissa, Kehelatha, Mount Sheper, Harada, Makaloth, Tahath, Terah, Mithka, and Hashmonah. They set out from Hashmonah and camped at Moseroth, then Bene Yaakon, Hor Haggidgad, Jotbatha, and Abrona. From Abrona they camped at Esion-Geber, then turned back into the wilderness of Zin and camped at Kadesh. The death of Aaron. They set out from Kadesh and camped at Mount Hor on the border of Edom. There Aaron the priest went up Mount Hor at the Lord's command, and died there in the 40th year after Israel came out of Egypt, on the first day of the 5th month. Aaron was 123 years old when he died. Eleazar his son became priest in his place. The king of Arad, who lived in the Negev of Canaan, heard that Israel was coming, toward the plains of Moab. From Mount Hor they camped at Zalmonah, then Punon Oboth and Iye Abarim on the border of Moab. They moved on to Dibon-Gad, then Almon Diblathaim, and then to the mountains of Abarim near Nebo. Finally they camped along the Jordan River, across from Jericho on the plains of Moab, from Beth Jeshimoth to Abel Shittim. There their long journey came to a pause. The Lord speaks about the land. While Israel camped on the plains of Moab by the Jordan across from Jericho, the Lord spoke to Moses. He instructed the people to drive out the inhabitants of the land, remove all objects of false worship, and take possession of the land he was giving them. The land was to be distributed by lot among the tribes as an inheritance, according to their families. The Lord warned that if they did not remove what remained in the land, it would cause difficulty among them later. Then the Lord said, "I will do to you what I plan to do to them." The meaning of Numbers 33. Numbers 33 shows that every step of Israel's journey mattered. Not one place was forgotten. Not one movement was random. From Egypt to the plains of Moab, the Lord guided his people, patiently, faithfully, and purposefully. This chapter reminds us that the journey itself is part of God's work. Even the wilderness stages were written down. God remembers the road his people walk. Next comes Numbers 34, where the Lord defines the boundaries of the land Israel is about to inherit.